Uh-oh. Episode 31. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. We are here again. Another episode. I'm so stoked at this thing. Today, I have Alain Nu, also known as the man who knows. And he'll be jumping in here in just a second. Let me get a little... And it goes something like this. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope that wherever you are is doing good for you. It's me, it's Paul Carpenter. This is episode 31 of On the Other Side with me. And any moment now, Alain will be jumping in. And as soon as he jumps in, I'll see him and we'll pop him in. Alain, if this is you watching now, I need you on your phone, not your computer. I know that sounds a little weird, but yeah, that's the world I live in. Until this beefs up to the next level. Hold on. For those of you who don't know, I'm attempting a world record. And the world record is that I am trying to make one podcast every day with a different guest. And there's a lot of challenges that come with that. And there's also a lot of learning that's been coming out of it. And it's like really cool learning and like excited stuff that I've been getting to be part of. And just the whole thing is very cool. So I'm trying to set this up to make it look nicer. Oh, hi. So that's not holding. There you go. Maybe. Screw it. We're gonna leave it there. So yeah, I'm just waiting for Alain. I'm gonna go. Oh, is that him now? That's Stephen Hooks. I'm gonna go check on him real quick. Don't leave. Give me 30 to 10 seconds. He'll be here in a second, and we'll have him live with us. Alain Nu. He's absolutely amazing, by the way. Alain has had his own Vegas show. He's also had his own television show where he was doing mentalism all over. And one of the things that he did, I want to mention here in a little bit. I'll talk about it when we're talking to him. So let me go check one more time, and I'll be right back. Might be here. I'm waiting to see for him to pop up over here, and then I can add him in. Maybe I can try and... nope. And maybe I can try and go this way. The technical difficulties of doing a live feed. Let me go message him one more time because we're in contact and he wants to be on. So I just need to find out what's going on. Give me one more second. He's like, "Are you sending me the link?" Oh, weird. There he is. Boom. Here he is. We got him. Alain Nu. I'm so excited. Episode 31. Side. Yes. It's working, folks. And for those of you who don't know, oh wow, you just popped off and then popped back in. That was weird. Like it wanted to add you and then it stopped adding you. Okay. Alain, if you're watching, jump out of this feed and then jump back in. I don't know what's going on. Your camera. Oh, there it is. There it is. Don't move. Don't move. There. Don't move. We're adding you in. I'm gonna have to talk.
There we go.
Episode 31.
This is about the most strange way that I've ever been interviewed before. But welcome to Facebook.
Let me tell you, there's a reason for the thing that I'm doing, Alain. And I talked about it in other podcasts. It makes it seem as though we're just having a phone call. Because the presence of you talking into your phone doesn't make it feel like you're having an interview per se, you know? And so it Yeah, it's fun that way. I don't know, but let's do this. My friend Alain Nu, thank you for coming onto the show. If you would not mind, tell us who you are, where'd you come from, what do you do? Let us know.
Who am I? I basically am a mystery performer like yourself. I live in Las Vegas. It's a beautiful day today, right now, and I think you're here too somewhere. So eventually we might actually meet up. Nice to see that Tom Holbrook is in the crowd. Hey, Tom. I can't hear you right
Yeah,
now.
Jamie Salinas is also here.
Who?
Jamie Salinas from Houston, Texas.
Oh, nice. My
Yeah.
bro. Cool, man. So yeah, welcome to Sin City, and glad to see that you're in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. So Elaine, I like to ask. I literally would go through the entire thing. So, where were you born? And did you ever have like a regular job before you became an entertainer? And the next, like, the series of questions is how did that change? And when did you go from normal person to, international magician, performer, TV performer, and all that? We'll go through all
Never
of
a
it.
normal person. When I was learning how to read, my dad had gotten a job at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And I was like, I was like 6, 7 years old, and we had just moved into Washington, and he wanted me to read, and so he said, I just got a job at the biggest library in the world. You know, what would you like to learn about? And I basically thought about it for a few seconds and realized that magic would be nice. Can you get me books on magic? And then before I knew it, I had a big stack of books, of which the first book I read was The Master Magicians by Walter Gibson, and that really kind of opened me up to this idea that you could perform a mystery show of wonders. And before that, I was really into Johnny Quest, and so like Haji was like the kind of the mystery worker of that cast, and and so I was seeing a non-white kid basically doing supernatural like things for his friend Johnny Quest kind of made me think to myself, maybe I could do something like that, and or at least be perceived in that particular way. Once I realized that, I started looking into those magic books and reading about them. And interestingly, magic books are hard to understand. It's not easy to do it. So can you hear me okay? Is everything okay at this point? Okay, good. So basically I tore through those books. I understood what I needed to learn, and because of that, that's how you read a magic book, by the way. You have to like understand everything you read, and you have to, it's even greater detail than like any set of instructions that you might get for anything else. And so you really have to kind of learn to exercise a particular muscle while learning magic or mentalism or anything that you decide to pick up on. And you have to kind of form a love affair, if you will, with that particular passion, with that particular art form. And when you do, suddenly, your mind starts to go, and you get creative, and then you meet other people who do similar types of things, and you're off and running.
So what was the first thing that inspired you? Like, because like, did you know, like, your dad already said I had this job? You already obviously knew magic before that, because that was your interest. So what was the first thing that was like, oh, I see it, or someone did a coin trick, or one of those things? What was that thing for you?
My uncle used to pull off his thumb, and that was the beginning of it all.
And then my next story, because it happened to me, I remember, I think I was like 12 years old. And there was a store in the mall in Houston, in Clear Lake, called Baybrook Mall. And I don't know if you remember, there were like these glass cases, and you would push a button, and it would carousel all these different little things inside. Do you remember that?
The
And this was
viewfinder,
a
is that what it was?
store. Was that?
The viewfinder, is that what that was called?
Something like that, yeah. And you could push the button and it would just rotate stuff. And this was a store that had random things in it. And one of the cases had magic tricks in it. And this guy, he did the black and white surprise. You know, the one where you take the two black and white coins, and then you put them together, it turns red and yellow, and then you put it together again and turns blue and green, and then you can't take them apart. You're like sitting there forever. I'm 12 years old. That was one of the first tricks that, and I remember saving up for weeks and weeks and weeks just to buy that trick. It was like $20 trick. So like, what was that for you? What was your thing that did that to you?
The first thing that I ever learned from magicians in a magic shop. So the first magic shop that the first magic shop that I ever went to was Al's Magic Shop in Washington, D.C. But eventually I ended up finding Dream Wizards, which was a little bit of a stranger magic shop in the sense that it had a role-playing game store in the front where everybody played D&D and other types of things like that. And then as you worked your way towards the back of the store, suddenly you found yourself in a science fiction bookstore, which had like nothing but sci-fi authors and then fantasy authors and art and stuff like that. And then you walk further down into the store, and then suddenly there's a magic shop at the very back, and with magic demonstrators behind the counters, and people that would come to see the magic shop and visit the magicians who they knew lingered back there. And it was just a cool experience for me, because I realized, wow, to get to the magic shop, you have to go all the way to the back, you know. And then what was also interesting was this idea that magicians all kind of knew something that I didn't know, and that they were always, you know, trying to inspire me to get to that next level or whatever. So the first thing that the magicians at Dream Wizards taught me how to do was put a coin in a bottle. And I remember being really excited, because that was so impossible. Like, how do you get a coin inside of a bottle, you know? And I remember saying to them, I think I was maybe 13 years old, I said, this is like a professional magic trick. and and they were like, yes, it is. It's a real professional magic trick. And so it was one of those great moments where I realized that, like, maybe I could do those kinds of things that Haji could do on Johnny Quest. Maybe I can actually learn how to do something that feels like, you know, there's really no explanation, defies logic, and that sort of thing. And I have to say, that was the coin in the bottle was the thing that made me realize that really amazing things can happen, and people would have no idea what's going on.
So then, as you were learning magic, did you ever have and I think all magicians go through this at one point, but disillusion of magic? For me, the disillusion of magic was when I started reading the books, and I realized, like, when I want to do like a disappearance or something, whatever, and then like you were saying, you have to take your index finger and pointing finger and place them together in a scissor fashion, you know, and you're like, you're like, as a kid, you're like, which one's my index finger? Which one's my pointy finger? You know what I mean? And so
the third finger, that was always a tough one.
Yeah, third finger.
From which direction?
And so, yeah, so I then got into a point where I was like, really like, oh, magic's not real. Like, you know, you go through that phase as a kid, like, oh, it's not what I thought it was going to be. Because I remember seeing Copperfield or something, and then going, whoa, he's doing these things. And then you find out how he's doing those things, and you're like, oh, that's not the thing that I thought it was. And then that disillusioned me with magic. And then the thing that brought me back was the engineering behind an invisible thread reel.
Of all things, crazy enough.
Right.
Here, I'll tell you my story on that. And that is that and that is that in the beginning, when I first, so I didn't really know anything about magic shops and hanging out with magicians and stuff like that until I ended up at Dream Wizards. So really, like, I hung out at Al's magic shop and I hung out at Barry's magic shop to just buy things and stuff. But it was really the magicians, and the magicians at Dream Wizards were Mark Chervinsky, who owned the place. And Mark was really, really interested in strange phenomenon. And he was really a Fortean investigator for the most part. He was really interested in the work and the way Charles Fort basically compiled his information. And Charles Fort, who started the Fortean Society, which basically studies strange phenomenon and stuff like that, had just a take on magic and the supernatural that was sort of more like, okay, so we don't know what this all is, and we don't know how we can define it or how we can explain it. So it's labeled as technically inexplicable type of stuff, and yet, because we can't explain it, there's no need to dismiss it. There's no need to say that it doesn't exist. Rather, just put it aside. Just compile the information, get the information, as much of it as you possibly can have, and then put it somewhere where later on maybe you can do a book report. Maybe later on you can pull it together and it'll make more sense at a later date. And that is probably the thing that inspired me the most about his work, was realizing that you don't have to explain everything right now. You can wait and see what unfolds in reality later on. And when I realized that you could do that, it was cool to me, because I realized that there's no rush to become a mystery worker. You can literally just start with the mysteries themselves and talk about them and be curious about them. And then if you're interested in doing magic for people, then you can do magic or mentalism for people, and you can actually discuss those types of things that we do as mystery performers in the same way that you might discuss the inexplicable to another person. And therefore it opens up a totally different discussion, and it's no longer necessarily about what is real or what is not real. It's really more about, how do we feel and what are we experiencing here, and how does that relate to other things in our lives. And so that to me is my personal quest of magic, is to try to find real magic, to try to be interested enough about things that I don't understand, to the point where I'm curious without having to try to debunk whatever it is that I'm talking about, and to try to fall in such interest of that particular subject matter that you can talk about it to a degree that is fascinating, without having to go into the how is it done and the what's going on here and the it's only this. And that's not to say that my intention is to dismiss any of that stuff. In fact, my intention is to really, really try to understand it to the point where I don't have to just have an explanation as to how those things work, and I can just simply be amazed at the fact that those things happen, and even be inspired by the way other people think about those things.
Yeah, man, that's like that when you speak like that, it makes me think of like Jeff McBride. It makes me think of like Eugene Berger. It makes me think, because I think what happens, and this is, I think, anybody who does anything for a long period of time, even like Jeff, Jeff teaches this whole like idea of wholeness in the act, if you will, right? Like coming from like, not only is the elemental part of it, but there's also this emotional response that you're supposed to be sharing and creating, and that has nothing to do with the move. You know what I mean? It's this whole other thing, and it becomes a philosophy, and it becomes this thing. So yeah,
Jeff and Eugene were great teachers, and they really did inspire me early on in my young adult career into the directions that I've gone in. And I was a part of mystery school in the early stages. I'm part of the mystery school book, in which I contribute a piece to it, and I think that the stuff that Jeff and Eugene have done is just a great thing to magicians, and kind of giving people a little bit of a different way of understanding our art, rather than to just think that it's just a bunch of tricks that that you can figure out if you take our classes. And so I think that the way that they think about magic and the manner in which magic is thought of is interesting in and of itself. And you can learn a lot about magic without having to just go into the okay, here's how it's done, or and probably the best thing that you can do as a magician is to not just stop when you figure out how it's done, but to try to allow the explanation of what it is to inspire you to greater depths in what you do. Because if you do that, you're going to find that there's a lot more to the experience of magic than there is as far as just the mechanics of the trick. And there's a whole psychological aspect, and then there's a whole deeper aspect which opens up, the doors of the universe. Suddenly you realize that all the mysteries, all the things that we don't understand, are things that we have access to by just simply taking an interest.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have two questions now. One of them is, do you feel that possibly you go deeper into it because of imposter syndrome? So like you know that idea where no, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it like in the most idea of what the imposter syndrome is. Like, I learned something, I think I know, and then I get to a place where I'm like, oh, I definitely don't know nothing. And then because of that not knowing, you go even deeper into the thing. And so it's not like a negative, it's like a super positive. I think we should all go through imposter syndrome if we have something that we've been working on for a long period of time. I think there's a Stoic quote that says, if you're the smartest person in the room, go to another room. Like, find other people who are better than you, because otherwise you're not learning. Otherwise you're just the guy in front of everybody performing at that point, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I totally understand the imposter syndrome concept that you're trying to explain to me, but I will say that the more I am interested in what I do, and the more I try to think about the spectator's experience of what they're seeing from me, that will give me insight as to how I can explain what I do in a way that doesn't necessarily lie to the audience, but rather tries to embrace that particular experience in such a way that I can share with them some other aspect of what it is that I've done, without having to just say, well, really all I did was, dot, dot, dot. Because in my personal opinion, when you do that, you're really kind of blowing off the effect. You're blowing off the effect, and you're doing the thing that, frankly, I just don't care for when it comes to other magicians explaining what they do. Like, I really don't want other magicians to explain what they do in terms of the simplicity of it all. I don't think that magic is really that simple, and I think that you can actually learn a lot from understanding just the overall experience, as opposed to just getting down to the mechanics. And yeah, you can learn the mechanics. So if you're interested in the mechanics, go and learn them. And but all I can say is, once you learn them, there's a deeper level that you can reach of understanding that goes much deeper than so that's how it's done. It's just plexiglass, or it's just whatever. I'm just saying that, like, you want to, like, you want to just understand the nature of the effect, so that you can you might even learn something about teaching people. So basically, what you're learning when you're learning magic is, you might be learning how to teach somebody something. And in my opinion, it's not something that it needs to be blown off. I think that magic is much deeper. So if there's anything that I can offer to the magic world that you speak to, it's to let them know that magic is much deeper than what it is on the surface, and that you can actually think about it in ways that can open your mind to other things. I mean, the idea of abracadabra, for instance, has that meaning that I create as I speak. You know, just that idea of I create as I speak, it opens our minds to these new ideas of how we might be able to find, you know, and empower ourselves through actual magic. You know, is the spoken word magic? Maybe all the words that we speak are magic words that lead to the manifestations in our lives. Maybe the better speakers we are, the better magicians we become. And by doing so, there's a whole universe out there that of manifestation that you can actually be inspired by. And it doesn't have to, you know, end with just learning how to do a magic trick. It actually can begin with understanding that the magical experience can lead to things that you're not expecting, and lead you to learn things that actually have some depth and some gravitas that you can pull into your life.
Yeah. 100%. That's been a running theme within these episodes. That's been really cool, by the way. First of all, the abracadabra thing was episode 20 something or other. There was a guy who is an Aramaic scholar who came on, and he actually went through the Aramaic alphabet, like a couple of letters. I'm going to bring him on so that I can have him again, because it was such a spectacular episode and so many people liked it. But so the idea of what we say, how we think, what we read, what we ingest into our lives, and how we speak about ourselves. And that was something that yesterday, Brooklyn guy was on. And he's an amazing guy. He was corporate his whole entire life. And then out of nowhere, he just kind of like nah, I'm done with that thing. And he has purple hair, and he does like body painting where he fully paints his body, and he does like performance art with Matthew Silver in New York, and just this, you know, and now he teaches people how to live authentically. So
Nice.
it's like, wow, you know, Brooklyn, people, I can hear you. So it's all good. But yeah, so the thing that's very cool is that it goes back to what you say is what you create. How you feel about yourself is what you create. So now let's move on with you, because I want to know. One of my big things to know about you is like, how did you get the TV show and all the other stuff? But before we get to that, the question is, what was your first paid gig, and where was it?
It was in Florida. It was in Orlando, at a restaurant which was then called the Orient Four, and it was owned by my aunt and uncle. And I was 14 years old, and they brought me over to Florida to spend the summer with them, and they basically had me do the strolling walk around magician, and it was my first experience doing that, and I've got a zillion stories that'll take us way too long. But it was a great experience, and it was an experience that basically put me in front of a live audience. And so all I can say is, if you're a performer out there and you want to like practice something or do something, just do it. Like literally, just find an audience that you think will work and practice in front of them. And if it was just two people, then that's a 2-person audience you just performed your trick for. And if it's 5 people, then you've more than doubled. And so just keep on going and be fearless. Try to just dive in and let it happen, because it will happen over time. I mean, I really think that performing is really just about having the guts to just stand in front of a group of people and just start, because if you don't get to that point, then it's just not going to happen until you have the guts to do it. But part of it is just having just taking a deep breath and just letting yourself go and do it. Yeah. Sometimes it might not be successful, but that's okay, because that's one of the lessons you learn, is sometimes it's not successful. And then you got to figure out how you're going to deal with that success. The theater movement philosopher Jacques Lecoq basically had this saying that I used to love to say to people. As my instructor, Dodi DeSantos, told me about this, but basically, Jacques Lecoq used to say, it's not whether you win or fail, it's that when you fail magnificently.
Love that. Love that.
And yeah, and that's all it is just getting in front of people and doing what you do, and letting yourself fail if it goes wrong, you know, because sometimes it's how you learn to let the moment fall on you that is the greatest thing that you can learn in that moment.
I remember when we saw each other in New York a couple of years ago, you were performing at a hotel, and afterwards we walked. What's that?
The Lexington Hotel.
That's right, yeah. And right after your performance, we went out and we were in Times Square area, and I go, hey, I'm going to do a show. And you were like, what? I was like, yeah, right here, right now. And I wanted to show off to you is what it was. That's what it was. I wanted to, like, let me show you what I do, you know? And so I remember, you know, it starts off real small, little crowd. And by the time I was done, I don't think we had about 80 to 100 people around me. And it was a show. Like, it was a show. And we're walking down the street afterwards, and I'm sitting there counting about $130, you know, that I made in like 20, 30 minutes. And you're looking at me, and you were just like, that was really cool, bro. And it wasn't the magic that you were complimenting. It was the idea of creating a moment. And this idea of what you're talking about, failing miserably. And mind you, when I started, you know, 15 years ago on the street, oh my God, did I ever fail miserably? I would work an entire night and only make $20, you know. So yeah, I know what it feels like to fail miserably on the street. And then I know what it's like to, blessings to you, by the way, but I really know what it's like to go up to somebody who I look up to, somebody who I've seen on television, and go, oh my God, I'm hanging out with that guy, which is another thing I love about the magic community, because we're all just so accessible to each other. Even to non-magicians, we're accessible. Like, you could call us on the phone. We have websites with our number. That's literally our cell phone numbers, you know, most of the time. That's really cool. In other art forms, it's not like that. If I was a musician and I liked Aerosmith, I would never be able to talk to, you know, any of the band members. Whereas if I like David Copperfield, I can access many of the people who are super connected to him through the friendships that I've made over the years. You know what I mean? And that,
I wonder if it's the same way within musicianship. I mean, I have a friend, you know, my friend Mike Meadows basically is a drummer, and you know, he's out of Austin, Texas, so that's kind of unfair already. But he ends up drumming for some of the most amazing musicians. He recently he like a couple of years ago, he did a tour for Willie Nelson because Willie Nelson's drummer couldn't do it. And it's like Willie Nelson has only had one other drummer in his entire career, and this particular season that drummer couldn't do it. And as a result, my friend Mike Meadows just suddenly got that gig, and then before he knows it, he's like touring with Willie Nelson, hanging out with Snoop Dogg backstage, and you know, it was just an amazing, amazing.
So on that level, Alain, when it comes to work, that kind of thing I've heard of a lot. Like, I have a friend of mine here in Vegas. His name is Corky Gainsford. I'll tag him. And Corky actually was working as a Blue Man Group guy for a minute. He was in a band that's also here out of Vegas that you might want to connect with. They have a thing that's called Life by Music. The name of the band is called Otherwise. It's run by two brothers. One of them's name is Adrian Patrick. I'll also tag Adrian Patrick in here just to say hello to everybody. When I talk about people, I like to say, hey, man, I used you in my episode. but Adrian Patrick.
Looking forward to meeting him.
Yeah, no, really, honestly, Adrian Patrick has this thing called Life by Music, and what they do is they go around and help kids learn how to play music, and they do all this positive, like, you know, nonprofit work here in Vegas. So, and I know you're a Vegas guy, and you would love to connect with that whole vibe. But nonetheless, I was a musician. I was signed at one point when I was much younger. I was touring a bit, and even though I got to hang out with like Stone Temple Pilots, and I got invited to hang out with them at their hotel and everything when I was younger. It's not the same thing. Like, we had to finagle our way to even get close enough for them, you know, and then we gave them our CD, and then we met them a couple of years later when they came back. And then, you know what I mean? Like, we became friends. It was cool. It was very cool. But I don't feel like it's the same thing as like when I know a magician and I go up to them like you know, like I'm like, hey, I've seen you on TV and I like you and I want to be your friend. And you're like, okay.
I don't know if it was that easy.
Well, no, of course not. It took years. It took years, but yeah, maybe, but I don't feel like it's the same because I don't know. There's a difference there. There's more of a.
There is an interesting connection that takes place, and you know, I have to say, it's similar to like how when people say, you know, go to this website and type in the promo code, you know, and the promo code becomes sort of like the secret password to allow yourself access to get to that website. And similarly in the world of magic, which is different from the other worlds that, you know, other artists, is that you end up, like, with every magic trick you learn, you're learning another password for getting yourself into that community. And the more jargon that you know, and the more, you know, passwords that you know, the more you are able to, like, get into, you know, get into the mind of those people you're trying to reach, to the point where they go, okay, well, he said the secret password, so I'm letting him in, you know. And and that's basically what goes on with regards to magic, is that, you know, like, every, you know, magicians know that not everyone knows what an Elmsley count is, you know, or not everyone knows who Di Vernon is. And so, like, as soon as you give them those passwords, then suddenly they're letting you in, just based on the fact that you've said the right thing, you know.
I think that also comes down to something we said in another episode before, which was like, and I think it was also a magician. And I said something to the effect of like, we let you in when we know that you actually made it your life. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you can tell, even for the guys who were like the IBM members, or like people who are only in you know, like little groups and they don't perform, but they love magic. You know what I mean? You're more than willing to go to an IBM group and give them everything you know, to people who are not performers, right? But people who love magic, and you know that they love it because they made it their life. Do you know what you know what I mean, right? And so then that's why, at least for me, like, I met a kid once.
I don't know for sure if they made it their life, but I can say that that, you know, the world is huge. You know, we live in the world of the internet is infinite. And so when the internet first came about, I was concerned that maybe all the secrets of magic would get let out. And what I realized in the end is that the secrets of everything got let out. So it's not just magic's secrets that got let out. It's literally everything in the world just got dumped right into this thing we now call the internet. And therefore, if somebody wants to learn magic, then they end up on that website or whatever, and then poof, they're a magician. And it's similar to like how a magic store might show up on the street corner of some busy city, and then a police officer might decide, hey, you know, maybe I can get something for my son over there. And they walk in, and by the time they buy a magic trick and they walk out and they've learned from the magician how to do it, technically they're a magician. And so they've just waltzed into this world. They've, you know, ingratiated themselves with the proprietor. They paid him some money, and then that person gave him a secret, and then he showed him how it's done. And now he's maybe not a full-fledged magician, but he just opened the door a little bit. He got the door cracked open for himself. And and depending on his interest, if he's really interested enough, he's going to come back the week after, and then he's going to learn something else. And then he might come back the week after that, and he'll learn something else. And if he's hooked, then he becomes a real magician. You know, then he moves from just the beginner to a more amateur state. And and that's really how everything in the world works. So I mean, you know, that's how the internet works. So I mean, if you're interested in lock picking, then go to the internet and figure out how to pick locks. You know, if you're in, and what you're going to find is a world that might be similar to magic, but it's not magic, and it's a totally different world, and it can open you up to becoming a locksmith. You know, but you know, if you're interested in ballroom dancing, the internet can show you how. And so here's the thing: you can't learn everything you want to learn in your one lifetime off of the internet. You can, however, choose and decide what you want to learn, and then decide how much focus you want to put towards that thing in order to get yourself to a certain level of mastery. And if it's magic, then that's wonderful. If it's ballroom dancing, that's great too. If it's, you know, fly fishing, then that's a whole other thing. But you can't spend your entire life on all of those things, you know, without it getting really, really complex. So choose what your passion is. Go for your passion. Do the thing that you want to do. If you want to learn magic, then there's a whole universe of stuff that you can learn. But if you want to learn anything else, you want to learn computer programming, if you want to learn video editing, if you want to learn, you know, how to write a book and you know, get a TED Talk, that's all other things as well. And you can be a magician and do those things too. But you have to like focus all of your energy towards the thing that you're working on. And all I'm saying is that to be a magician or to learn from the internet, it's not that easy. It takes the same amount of time as you learning in real life. It's just a different medium that you're working through.
Yeah, 100%. So I know you don't have a lot of time today. We were going to make this semi-short, like not a big long one like I do on some other ones, because you have to go to work here in a little bit. You are performing here in Vegas. Where is that exactly?
Right now, I'm doing a side hustle. I've got a gig at Public Us, which is a Hawaiian-inspired brunch and lunch type of place. They like to do brunches and lunches and stuff. So you know, it opens in the morning, it closes at 3. It's not an evening place. But that reminds me, I need to find an evening place to perform here in Las Vegas now. So I'm working on that one still. But yeah, so I'm just filling up my schedule. I'm just trying to, you know, get it going over here in DC, where I'm from. You know, I can do lots of business events and stuff like that, and I still do actually go out east to perform. I was just there like last week, and then I go back in 2 more weeks. But yeah, starting a new life in Las Vegas has been interesting, just shaking hands. And, you know, part of having this brunch time gig is that I get to glad hand with a lot of the local, you know, industry folks that come out and visit Public Us, just because it's a casual dining place. It's not like a fine dining place. It's really more like, you know, you can go out and get yourself a Loco Moco and a latte and you know, and before you know it, you're enjoying life and you're full, and the people around you are all good vibes and stuff. And the best thing about that particular place is that I can walk there. It's like 3 blocks away from where I live, and so it's just easy for me to go there, and it's easy for me to have a place, and the owners love me there, and so it's just it's fun place to have. I love Las Vegas. I have to say, I love Las Vegas for the most unconventional reasons. First and foremost, there are no mosquitoes in Las Vegas. Recently, they say that they've been coming back, but that's nothing compared to Maryland. And so I know how vicious they get.
Or Houston, Texas, or New Orleans, which is where I'm at.
Exactly. Houston, Texas, forget about it. I have to say, the average American in America actually spends maybe a minimum of maybe an hour a week just dealing with mosquitoes. And so when you think about it, it's like you're tending to wounds, you're killing them and hunting them down. It's just like you're spending time And here in Vegas, I find it amazing to realize that, I have all this extra time because I'm not like trying to hunt down mosquitoes. And so,
So look, I want to go through some of the comments, and I want to thank all the people who are here right now. That's Stacy Weiland, Patrick, Joanne, Tom Holbrook. They were all watching basically from the beginning. So thank you all for being here. Yeah.
hey, Stacy, it was great working with you.
Tom Holbrook says, I'm watching on my phone. It says Brodeen and Tarbell were my early influences. Berger taught me to tape record myself reading the book and learn from both the book and recording.
Mm-hmm.
Julian James came in. He's from mentalist from England. Tim Hall says Alain Nu, Al's Magic Shop on Pennsylvania. Says Tom Hallberg says spent many wonderful times with Eugene at his apartment on Dearborn.
Yeah.
Renee Delgadio was here a little while ago. Jeffrey Allen was here. Says love Elaine. Patrick Juan says Elaine, the man who knows. Hi everybody. Tom says that's why I like pitching, busking, magic, and entertainment. Don Theo says Alain Nu is the real deal. This is real talk. And then he says you can't learn talent, which I'm not sure I agree with. But keep working at CC has new offer up. Illinois too. So that's the little messages that are going in and out. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Paul Carpenter. This is called On the Other Side. It's a podcast I'm trying to create a new world record of doing one podcast every day, long form with a different guest for 365 days straight. And we are on episode 31 right now with Alain Nu. Now, what I'd like to know, my friend, because I know we don't have a lot of time, and this might take a bit of a thing, how did you get your own television special?
How did I get my own TV special? I was very lucky. Luck is a huge factor.
I will not accept that answer.
No, it's a great answer. It's true. It's a true answer. It's like
what do they say about luck? What do they say? Luck is preparedness and being in the right place, or something like that, or creating the right instance, or something like that. So I think that's what you meant when you said luck. But go ahead.
Well, right, okay. So I mean, obviously, it was always what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be on television one day. I always had this idea that if I could become a great magician on TV or a great mentalist on TV, that would take me to the next level. And so in many ways it did. In many ways, not everyone can say that they've had a television special, and I've had 4 of them. So I mean, I think
you could say 7 magicians in our time have had their own television special. And you're one of them.
No, I'm not counting.
No,
I'd say easily under 20. But and it's nice to know that I was one of them. So here's the thing, the way to manifest things like a television show or say residency. Can you hear me? Wait.
Sorry, when I do that, I'm just saying everybody listen very carefully to what he's saying right now, because you're about to hit some major. So go ahead.
You had a funny feeling, huh? So the best way to get to manifest things in your life that you don't think that you can manifest, like a TV show or a residency at a hotel or a casino or writing a book, is really you gotta get to that point where you're just thinking about it all the time, and you're just and it's in your mind, and so with the TV show part, it's always been in my mind to want to have enough original material to always be able to have something for say a TV show if I were to end up on a morning show somewhere or something like that. And so I just started collecting things that I could potentially do on television, and the way I think as a creative person is it always starts with the effect or the process of what it is that I want to show to people first. And then it kind of moves to, well, so how can I take that and make that the best thing for whoever it is that I'm performing for? How can I craft that so that I've got like a real opening monologue and a beginning and a middle and an end that can actually, that can fill that role? And usually what I find is that that thing ends up taking about 7 minutes. And 7 minutes just happens to be about the length of time that a morning show is going to ask you to do. So it works out in the end. But what I'm saying is that if you just think about it enough, eventually an opportunity is going to arise. And the next part is you have to be aware. You have to be aware, and you've got to think about how, you know, how it might happen. And it might happen through a connection that you have. You might know somebody who knows somebody. It might happen through a random, you know, happening that happens to be something, you know, that in which just comes out of left field, and that's happened to me before. Or it might happen, or it might happen through like a client of yours, or some kind of a business thing that you're doing that ends up resulting in you having that opportunity. But most of the time, it's really just going to be a person that you know through another person. And so what you have to do is you just have to be prepared. You have to be aware of the fact that that might happen. And then you have to think to yourself, well, if that were to happen, then what am I going to do in that situation? And so, you know, any number of things can happen. So in the case of TLC showing up on my doorstep, it really started with my friend Alan Hayden. I don't know how many of you out there know Alan Hayden or that name, but he's an old school name from back in the 80s. He's an amazingly creative performer, and he was one of the guys that I admired when I was a kid. And then and then, you know, later on in life, we just kind of remained friends and we stayed in touch. And then one day, this guy at the Magic Castle was talking to Alan at a bar, and he said, "Hey, I'm trying to put together a show that's similar to like David Blaine, and we've got a contract with a cable company, and if you know anybody who has, you know, the material that can fill a television slot." And Alan just, you know, they're in the Magic Castle, so technically he could have mentioned anybody who was performing, but instead he went, "I know this guy on the East Coast, this guy Alain Nu, that you should reach out to." And so before I know it, I'm getting a call from a television producer asking me if I'm interested in doing something. And it was really because Alan Hayden vetted me. He basically said, "I know a guy, he's worked on this stuff for a long time, and I think that he's the guy that you're looking for." And he handed me Mike Mathis of Mike Mathis Productions. And so you know, it was luck in many ways. That's what I call luck. And so you know, the next part is I had to prove to Mike Mathis that I was worthy. And so when he contacted me, and I totally thought that I thought it was going to die. Like the second he called me and told me that he was interested in me, I was like, there's no way that Alan Hayden, you know, my crazy friend from Los Angeles, is going to actually convince somebody to make a television show on me. And then he did. That was the craziest part. But, you know, I sent him a videotape. I sent him what I do, and he was impressed enough that he took me on. And for, you know, it was about 6 months that nothing happened. Like about nothing happened for 6 months. And part of it was that it was the winter, and so you know, nothing happens when it's cold outside. And then like suddenly in March, I just thought to myself, you know, I'm gonna call that guy and see if he's still interested. And so I called him up and I said, "Hey, you know, I know we took a little bit of a break during the cold season, but now that it's getting warmer outside, we might be able to actually do some video. Let me know if you're interested." And then suddenly he called me back and he said, "I'm interested, and I'm going to be in Silver Spring, Maryland next week." And so, and the reason why he's going to be in Silver Spring is because that's where the Discovery Channel headquarters is, and that's where I live. So it was just kind of like we met there. I met the CEO of Discovery.
Shut up. Oh, shut up, bro. This whole thing is a series of so much of what this whole entire conversation has been about. And it's, to start off, it was fail miserably, go out there and learn the thing. No, watch it, because
Fail
I put this whole thing
magnificently.
together. I'm going to tie this whole thing together. I hope you're impressed. But it's fail miserably,
Fail
go out there and do
magnificently.
fail magnificently, keep doing the thing that you love, get passionate about it, learn more and the meanings for why you're doing, because even just one magic trick to one person can absolutely change their life. And so even just one magic trick like coin and bottle, Bitcoin, if performed correctly, if given the right context, if given the right emotional value, it can absolutely mind blow somebody to feel different, to be different for the rest of their life.
You know,
So wait, and I'm almost done. And the last portion of it is manifestation happens when you are working on the things that we just talked about, thinking about what it is that you want at all times, and almost doing what I like to call mental push-ups, that even when you're done thinking about it, it's still in the back of your mind, and you're back there kind of every once in a while just thinking, like, because I'm doing it with the show. I'm so doing it with this show. I already have a company that's a sponsorship company that's helping me out. I have another friend of mine who's like a marketing company. He's ready to go. And I'm getting the most amazing guests, you and all these other amazing guests. And it's just like, this thing's like chucka, 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 chuck,
nice.
And I'm so grateful. I'm so in love with this process. And look, like I said, I know you need to go. We've already been going for about an hour or so. So before we go any further, Stacey, haven't gotten any sponsorships yet. Thank you for the thanks. But I'm working with a company that knows how to do that and get the right people and blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to do that. Mike Russell, he was on an episode a couple episodes ago, and he goes, "Everyone check the future Guinness World Record I'm part of." Yeah. Which leads me to a couple things. Alain, if you wouldn't mind, please tell people where they can find you, your social media links. Oh, and before we go, I want to say that the thing that got me inspired and wanting to, like, one of the things that you did, which I wanted to mention, is when you did one of your television specials, you drove a car blindfolded down the most what is it?
Crooked Street in San Francisco, Lombard Street, right?
While also doing a memorized deck. So for anybody who's out there, go try and memorize a deck first, and then go ahead and try and blindfold yourself and drive down the street even straight. So enough.
That was our take on the blindfold drive. Was we thought to ourselves, there's a lot of people who claim to be able to drive blindfolded, but then the explanation would be simply that maybe they're just seeing through the blindfold somehow. So I mean, maybe if we did something in which I proved to them that I could memorize stuff, at a great rate, and then we drove down without a blindfold the crooked street, and that way I could, in that moment, memorize my way down. That would give it a little bit more credibility as a memory stunt, and then I would also memorize a deck of cards while driving blindfolded.
Right. Yeah. No. It was one of the things that you've done that has been like blip, and then obviously your metal work and everything else that you do that's absolutely amazing. And all the stuff that you've written and the lectures that you've done. You're a phenom, my friend, and it's a pleasure to have you as a friend in my life. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Again, links, everything that people need to know, even though it's already in here and I've already put it on the in the description. I'm also going to put it here in the comments for anybody who wants to go to your website. The comments are there. And yeah, man, thank you. So let us know, where can we find you?
Yeah, find me on Facebook and under The Man Who Knows. If you Google The Man Who Knows, you'll probably find all my links anyway. The Man Who Knows that's the best part of of having the title of The Man Who Knows is it's easy for people to remember. Um, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. I used to have a YouTube channel that I've kind of put on hiatus for the time being, but I'm coming back. And so give me a couple of months to get it together. I'm waiting for another residency to form here in Las Vegas. My residency at the Notoriety ended last June, but I'm excited to find a new place with you know, with a little bit more of a marketing department that can help me
behind it. Yeah, yeah. It's not. Listen, to those who don't know, putting on a show, period, is hard. Putting on a show in Vegas, it's not easy. Because there's so many things to do here, and like a million lights and bells and whistles, and a show in the middle of where it's hard, man. It's hard. So for anybody who is doing a show, for anybody who keeps a show going, I bow down to those because it is hard. Alain, again, thank you very much for your time today. I will see you in just a little bit. As soon as I'm done here, I'll pack up and I'll run to you and I'll come say hello. We'll have lunch.
Yeah, come by Public Us. I usually start there around 10:30, and then I usually end it around 1:30 or so.
Fun.
So
we're hanging out today. I'll see you in a little bit, and I've got a concert to go to that's right in the area, anyways. So,
no.
Cool. Yeah, a friend, one of the guys who was on the show, Mike Russell, he says he sent you a private message. Patrick Juan says that was great. Thank you, Patrick. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Patrick.
Tom Holbrook says thank you. He says 100 with his avatar. Again, Alain, thank you for being on the show. We'll see you soon.
Perfect. Take care.
Bye. Oh my God, I cannot tell you that it is like this every show, because it is like this every show. Every show has been this good. Every show has had this much like fascination with knowledge and connection and learning. And this has been a blessing, an absolute blessing. I said it before, but it feels like I'm getting to read the book of the person who wrote it from their own words instead of, you know what I mean? Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm going to definitely have Alain on again in the future so that we can have a little bit more time and we can get into some more stuff, because that was another amazing episode. Guys, please, if you would not mind, go out into the world and do something nice for somebody else. And if you can't, do something nice for yourself. It does start with you. Number two, don't get caught up in all the crazy stuff in this world, because if you do, then you end up a little poopity poops, and that's not good. Not for you, not for me. And number three, if you would not mind, please like, share, subscribe. Send this out to somebody who would like to see it. I truly thank you for watching from beginning to end. For anybody who is here, thank you so much. And for anybody who watches it in the future or later or anytime, thank you, and thank you. Lastly, but not leastly, hit the share button, hit the like button, because it honestly helps the algorithm to share it to more people. I know that's stupid, and I never thought I would be the one who said that, but when you study the thing, that's how it works. All right, so with that, I love you all, I thank you all, and I will see you all on the other side.